A city destroyed, a faith shaken, neighbors killed, long held beliefs questioned, people exiled in a foreign land, and anger at God, at the world, and at ourselves for failing to be the people of God. In the third chapter of Lamentations, we can feel all of this, and we continue to join with the community grieving the horrific loss of their city. And as this lament progresses, we see this pain accompanied by the realization that the people are culpable in the events that transpired. The question that sits at the heart of their lament, why, was partially answered. It was us. We failed to live out the good news of God's love and justice in the world. And in this part of Lamentations, we see another vital part of lament. To lament together, we need all the voices at the table, because not everyone experiences tragedy in the same way. If we step away from our collective lament about COVID-19, we can see that not all lament the same reality. Large-scale tragedies have a way to highlight the inequalities and oppression that already exists within a society. And when it comes to how one responds to tragedy, it has a great deal to do with how much power and privilege one has. Jeremiah was likely not as culpable as others in this tragedy that occurred in Jerusalem. From all we know, Jeremiah was a prophetic voice calling people back to the way of God during this whole period of time from before the destruction of Jerusalem and the exile. Yet after the dust had settled and grief had taken hold, Jeremiah didn't say, "I told you so." No, he got down into the aftermath of the tragedy. He joined the people in lament. Jeremiah here not only gives us a glimpse of a collective lament where all have a place at the table, but one of the key roles of the prophet, and indeed us as the church, to be advocates. Soong-Chen Ra, in his book Prophetic Lament, says that part of our call as a church is to be an advocate for those who are more affected by tragedy and justice than we ourselves are. To be an advocate means setting aside our own culpability in order to walk alongside someone else. But here, Ra says, we do have to be careful because, to quote Ra, the advocate must never replace the voice of the suffering, especially when the suffering people seek to speak for themselves. And part of the role of the advocate in American society today is to help the voiceless gain their own voice, to let them speak. As many of you know, alongside my work here as a pastor, I also work with an amazing organization called Aurora Commons, where my job title is quite literally community advocate. And in this work of being an advocate, you learn quickly that to be a good advocate is to lay down your own ideas and presumptions in order to truly listen to another person. To hear about a horrible experience someone just had and not think about what you would have done in the same circumstance, but listen with care to how the other person responded in their grief. Walk alongside of them. Advocacy is more about listening than anything, listening deeply to another human being and asking, not what can I do to help them or fix things, but how can I be present in a way that helps them heal, progress, learn, grow, and have their own agency in the world. That is what it means to be an advocate. To model lament to our world means that as the church, we are called to be advocates. And like Jeremiah, that means walking alongside those who have experienced oppression, regardless of our own feelings of culpability. In America, when questions of systemic racism and the history of slavery and white supremacy in our country come up, it is not uncommon to hear the response from many well-meaning people, "Hey, I'm not racist. My family didn't own slaves. Why do I need to repent and to lament?" But to be an advocate means laying down your own personal intentions and feelings and recognizing that whether or not you own slaves, whether or not I, as a white person, own slaves, I still benefit from the systemic racism that continues in our country long after slavery was abolished. It means joining in lament with black people and other people of color in America and coming alongside of them in the fight for justice. It means being able to say, I might not think of myself as a bad person, but I still benefit from systems that harm others, and I will advocate for my neighbors and for changes to these unjust systems. As we continue our journey of learning to lament, let us find ways to be advocates for those who are hurting, to be advocates for those who are experiencing oppression, and to be advocates for anyone that finds themselves suffering alone. This is our call as the church. This is our call as the people of God. And as we go through this challenging season, let us find ways to advocate for our neighbors, for those who are hurting, and for anyone that finds themselves suffering from injustice and oppression. This is our call today.